Welcome to a moment of Tiki at the Lagoon of Mystery, my home tiki bar in Central Texas. The first real good tiki cocktail I ever had was the Chief Lapu Lapu, and I had that at the first real tiki bar I ever visited, Lapulapu in Portland, Oregon. And so I have enjoyed making my own Chief Lapu Lapu cocktail at home ever since. And I actually had a craving for one now and wanted to make one, but unfortunately, I'm out of passion fruit syrup. Passion fruit syrup is the primary ingredient for the Chief Lapu Lapu, so I'm going to have to make some new syrup before I can make my cocktail. So why don't y'all come on in the kitchen and we will see what we can whip up. The great thing about making passion fruit syrup is it's just slightly more complicated than making simple syrup. And simple syrup is very simple, hence the name. The recipe I use is based on the one in Smuggler's Cove by Martin and Rebecca Kate. Start with a cup of water, which I then bring to a boil. And this is going to be a 2-to-1 simple syrup recipe. That means 2 cups of sugar to 1 cup of water. And you can hear it already starting. Since it's only 1 cup, it boils fairly quickly. As soon as I see those bubbles coming up, yeah, here we go. First cup, whisking it in, and it dissolves very quickly. And get ready for the second cup. Just whisk it all in there until it's fully dissolved. And we are good. So there you have it, the first lesson, how to make simple syrup, which we have. Now I'm going to set this aside and let it cool for the next hour, then come back and add the passion fruit puree to make it passion fruit syrup. Okay, now that the simple syrup has cooled to an acceptable level, I'm going to add the passion fruit puree. I use Goya because Goya is the most readily available. Unfortunately, not in the stores near me, but in the town that I work in San Marcos, they carry it. So I'm able to get a regular supply. Love passion fruit. People automatically think passion fruit is sweet, and yeah, it's got a significant amount of sugar in it, but those who really pay attention know that passion fruit is quite tart. It has that very distinctive tropical flavor to it. So just add there and stir it till it's completely mixed. And I also like to add an ounce of rum or vodka, clear like Spanish rum, so it doesn't impart much of a flavor. And this is for a preservative effect. And if you want to have some fun, go online and look up people's thoughts on adding rum or vodka or alcohol to syrups for preservation, and you will have a whole lot of differing opinions. Many people will say that it's not enough alcohol in that 1 ounce that you put in there to make a difference on preservation. Other people have done tests, basically, and say, yeah, it does extend the shelf life. It's not going to hurt. So, I also forgot to bring this up earlier, but I come from a home brewing background, and so I always like to add a little bit of potassium sorbate to all my syrups to act as a preservative. What potassium sorbate does, it prevents yeast from basically multiplying and eating the sugars. So people talk about bottle bombs when they make syrups at home. The pressure builds up, gets carbonated, and boom, if just a little bit of yeast gets in there, it can start munching away on the sugars, producing alcohol and carbon dioxide, and that builds up pressure and goes boom. So adding the potassium sorbate plus the alcohol, I think, significantly extends the shelf life of any syrups you make. It won't stop bacteria from infecting it, so you have to treat it well and use clean, hygienic practices. But once all is said and done, passion fruit syrup is a fine addition to any home bartender's home bar. And it makes an incredible addition to any tropical cocktails. To me, passion fruit is the definitive tropical flavor. So you got passion fruit, you've got a tropical cocktail party in a bottle. So let's go make that drink. Now that we have our passion fruit syrup made, I can commence to make my Chief Lapu Lapu cocktail. Traditionally, when one is making a drink, constructing a drink in the bar, the least expensive ingredient is added first, followed by the next and next and next and so on, up until the point one adds the alcohol, as the alcohol is the most expensive. And Chief Lapu Lapu calls for 1 ounce lemon juice. You want to go freshly squeezed, if at all possible, although I do not pass judgment on people who are restricted in what they can procure, although lemons and limes are fairly easy to come across. 1 ounce. One ounce passion fruit syrup. Now this calls for 1.5 ounces of orange juice. As I said prior, I don't hold it against people if they don't use freshly squeezed, although I readily admit freshly squeezed tastes much better. This is 100% Valencia, not from concentrate, so it's a little bit fresher than what you would get in the frozen section, I suppose. Orange juice. Oranges are just a little bit more difficult to work with and not as convenient as smaller citrus like lemons and limes. Therefore, I will cut the corners right there. After lemon juice, passion fruit syrup, 1.5 ounces of orange juice, now comes the fun part. Calls for 3/4 ounces of light rum. I have Donn Q here. I also use Cruzan on occasion, or even Eldorado 3. Each one is slightly different, but will all do. And that's the fun with Tiki cocktails. You can mix and match different rums and get different flavors. And 3/4 ounces dark Jamaican rum. And right here I have Blackwell. Traditionally, I have used Caruba for my dark rum mixer. Unfortunately, Twin Liquors, the liquor store I frequent for Caruba, seems to have stopped carrying it. So Blackwell has become my substitute. And it does an admirable job. Now the last thing you add is the ice. Now, one thing you have to keep in mind when you're shaking a cocktail is that you're not just mixing. When you shake a cocktail with ice, the alcohol melts the ice, which actually creates a suction effect. The alcohol continues to melt the ice, so you're introducing dilution as you're mixing and also aerating the cocktail, introducing really small microscopic bubbles into the drink to give it a more frothy mouthfeel. So limp shaking back and forth doesn't really do anything. You want to give it a really vigorous You want to use both hands, because if you just use one hand, the sides of the shaker tin get frosty and slick, and it could slip and it could go flying across the bar, hit someone or land on someone. Now here's another dirty secret I do. I'm pouring it in here. Professional bars and cocktails, when you construct a drink and shake it in the tin, you dispose of the ice and get fresh ice to reduce the dilution effect. At home, I dirty dump often, which essentially means reusing the ice that was used to shake, and then I will top it off with fresh ice from my ice bucket. And once that's finished, add a straw. Excellent. So there you have it. How to make a Chief Lapu Lapu cocktail, and how to make the passion fruit syrup that is the essential component in the Chief Lapu Lapu cocktail. Enjoy.